Welcome to another episode of A Cuppa with a Conversationalist. My name is Con and I am the Conversationalist. And yes, I have my latte in tow. Well, if you're like me and you can't stop at just one Tim Tam and you have to eat the pack, listen up. Listen up. My guest on today's program is eating psychology coach and master NLP practitioner and hypnotherapist, Suzanne Ingleton. Suzanne has dedicated the last 20 years to helping thousands of people to be the healthiest versions of themselves by prioritizing their mental, physical, and emotional wellness. Suzanne is from SA Weight Loss Hypnosis and is known as the weight loss coach. Suzanne is dedicated to helping women and men to break free from the dieting cycle born from lived experience that spanned over 40 years. Suzanne specializes in emotional, binge, and overeating and shows people how they can have peace and freedom around food and body for good. Welcome, Suzanne.
Thank you, Con. Yes, I'm very pleased to be here. Yeah, thank you for that lovely and kind introduction.
Awesome. Well, I did take it what you gave me and I just remodeled it a little bit, but the beginning, this is almost like a free consult here, and it's not, ladies and gentlemen, by the way. Suzanne, let's get into it. You mentioned in the intro that lived experience. Can you share? Are you happy to share some of your personal challenges that you had with food in your days?
Yes, totally. So I think when I'm working with people, I always get, we work to get to the root cause of specific behaviors and thought beliefs. And for me, when I analyze what was happening in my life around food and body, it was very much my mum's perception of how she should look. And all of, her friends and our aunties and things. And I wish if I had, I do. Now, what they strive to have was a 22-inch waist. A waist that big.
Oh, my goodness.
That is it's stuck with me all these years.
Wow.
In fact, my auntie, when she was married, she had an 18-inch waist. Now, I just cannot even envision that could even be possible on a human being. But that was how they felt that they needed to be beautiful, accepted, with the in crowd or whatever it was at that stage. So I guess that subliminally stuck with me, and I constantly felt that I needed to be, and I was never a big person, but I needed to have this flat stomach, and in my mind, flat stomach would mean a smaller waist for some reason. So as kids, we take on lots of different ideas around things, and not that they actually make a lot of sense a lot of the time. So what I did for many years, and for it's over 40 years, I restricted my food. I wasn't anorexic, although probably very close. But I was very big on food restriction. And then when I ate the food, if I was eating a lot of food, I would feel terrible. My goodness, I've got food in my stomach, and it needed to come out. So I was bulimic, to the extent that my dentist used to say, "What is happening? Your teeth are starting to deteriorate." And moving forwards from there, I even further wanted food to be out of my body. I would use laxatives. So I was a laxative abuser, which caused all sorts of problems, later on in my life. So food was the enemy for me. And I was not a big person, although I was probably lacking in confidence. I had this idea in my mind that you had to be super slim to be accepted or loved or whatever it was. And I wanted to be like the pretty girls at school. And so that was my way of doing it. And for over 40 years that lasted. So I had a very, very unhealthy relationship with food and my body, the perception of what my body was.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So
Yeah. So
at what point, was there that, I guess, realization or awareness that came upon you that said, hey, this can't continue, this isn't good, and this isn't right?
Yes, well, that's the next pivoting part of my life is when I was diagnosed with breast cancer. And that was in 2008. So a little while ago now, but I think, I know at that point, I hadn't placed a very high importance on my health. I was physically active. I used to do a lot of stuff, and but all for the common goal of being, the
22-inch waist.
Yeah, absolutely. I do 100 sit-ups every day. Crazy. So it was at that point when, and this still stays with me, lying on a metal slab in the Queen Elizabeth Hospital, having a full body bone scan. At that point, I suddenly realised my health had been taken away from me, just like that, gone. And I think, it was that point where I went, okay, my health has been taken away. What can I do? And it's been sort of my mission from that point onwards, and it's been a very compelling one to be aware of my health, to know now what I know with the training that I've done, that health is my highest value. And I'm not over the top. I'm not what we would call orthorexic. I'm not, super. I follow a balanced lifestyle. And but that's when I really discovered health was my highest value, and that led to all sorts of other things. So that's how I got to, I guess, being more aware of my health. But it was my oncologist at the time who said to me, Suzanne, the best way for you to beat this is to be the fittest and healthiest version of you, to be the fittest and healthiest version. And I just went, well, what could I do? And then I had an opportunity because of, the cancer diagnosis, that I could leave my work and I could reinvent myself. So I thought, what could I do? And I went, oh, I know, I'll be a personal trainer. So that's how I sort of came into this field of health and wellness, to be able to help others.
Wow. Okay. Without dwelling on it, and I guess for the benefit, because I'm sure everybody listening and who will watch this will ask exactly the same question.
Yeah.
You're diagnosed. Are we all good now?
Oh, yes, absolutely. All good. Yes. I have this little tattoo. I don't know if you can see it.
Yeah,
it's like
a
person going, yeah. And I get that redone every 5 years. So, yeah, I'm absolutely all good.
Glad to hear. So in the work that you do, is it fair to say that there are more common behaviors and challenges than not? Yeah. So what in your work, what are probably the highest of prevalence, or the highest in terms of numbers that you see? What disorder, not disorders, what habits, habits that don't serve us do you see?
Yes. Well, that's a bit of a double-edged sword. Emotional eating, I think this is emotional eating is what people will come to me for, and or binge eating. So those two areas. And it's interesting that emotional eating is certainly not disordered eating. Emotional eating is a very natural thing for a human to do in order to self-soothe. And we're set up for it from birth. However, if we've been trained to eat to feel better, if we've either trained ourselves to do that, it becomes habitual, or our caregivers, our family has said, little Johnny falls off the bike and here, have this cake or this biscuit, you'll feel better. Then once again, it's reinforced in a way that's not particularly helpful to the status quo of your body. And once again, it becomes a habit. But eating to feel good, but then we feel bad in pretty much a nanosecond,
Yep.
then that starts this nasty cycle. And when we don't understand why that's happening, it just keeps going and it just keeps repeating itself. And interesting, our behaviors and habits, we repeat 90% of everything that we do every day, from the day before, the week before, the year before, the decade before. 90% of everything that we do is on repeat. And 80% of that is a negative thought process. So, we're setting ourselves up for these things, just not knowing. And that's my mission, is to help people to get off that nasty cycle and have an understanding of how to be an eater. It is very plain and simple, but lifestyles and habits and, stress and everything that goes on, learned behavior, quick and easy, everything that happens in our life will tend to put us down a path that is not helpful. And that's when people come to see me as a last resort. They don't want to have surgery, and they'll come to see me instead.
I read, and I've mentioned this many, many times in previous podcasts when I'm speaking to people such as yourselves and people in that area, mindfulness. People have to be sick and tired of being sick and tired.
Mm-hmm.
They need to get to that point where they go, okay, enough. I can't do this anymore. I don't want to do this anymore.
Mm-hmm.
But is it fair to say that there has to be a level of self-awareness of the person to understand that, hey, I know I do this. I know it's not good for me. I recognize when I do it, but I have to get some help.
Yeah. And the most common thing people will say, I know what to do, but I just can't do it. And that's, if I had $1 for every, it's just lots and lots of that. And yes, they have a level of awareness. And because I work with the mind, this is where their radar, okay, it's got to be something in my mind, because I know what I should be doing. I'm not silly. I've been on this earth for, 50, 60, 70 years. I know the drill, and I keep doing the thing that I don't want to do. And I'm done with that. And so, yes, that is where they come to me, because I specialize in the mind. And when we get that sorted, all of a sudden it becomes easy and effortless. They know, they're not being driven by the chemical, the chemical reactions in our body that are kicked off by all the other elements of life that are happening around them.
Yeah. I did a little bit of Googling the other night.
Yeah.
And of course, Google is always right. We know that, Suzanne.
Of course, yes.
So I'll mention these stats with a grain of salt.
Mm-hmm.
And whilst they may not be entirely accurate, I would be interested in your view and suggest that they wouldn't be necessarily far from the truth.
Mm-hmm.
So the global weight loss and weight management diet market size last year in 2023 was valued at US dollars, 190 billion.
Yeah.
And this is where I fell out of my chair, and projected to grow to 391 billion US.
Mm-hmm.
And further from that, I didn't get an actual number, but there are literally thousands of diets.
Mm-hmm.
Thousands.
Mm-hmm.
There has got to be a lot of misinformation spread, because not everybody that's come up with a diet and not everybody that's getting $1 out of that 190 billion is necessarily accurate or motivated for the greater good, if you know what I mean.
Yes.
So where am I going with this? What are some of the, when your clients, patients come to you, what are some of the biggest misinformation beliefs that they have, or they've been subjected to, or guide them in their processes?
Yeah, that they have to be on a diet. That's
Jeez,
the biggest one.
That was easy, wasn't it?
They have to be on a diet. If they're not on a diet, they can't lose weight. Or if they don't eat anything, they'll lose weight. So the less they eat, the more they'll lose. I think that's a huge misnomer. Just having to be on a diet, there's no other way. You have to be on a diet. Our ancestors weren't on diets. They ate, they were hunter-gatherers. They ate, they had feast or famine. They didn't have the same kinds of stressors that we have today, but they certainly didn't have fast food either, unless it had 4 legs. So that was, they had to run for their food. But that they were ideally set up. So I think those are the things, and that's what happened to me. I felt like if I don't eat anything, I'll be good. No food, and then I will be the person that I want to be. But the other one is that their weight is the cause of all their unhappiness. And when they hit that number, those 2 or 3 numbers, whatever the scales say, when they hit that number, that's my happy number. I will be happy. And it just doesn't happen. It's not the scales. A set of numbers should never, ever dictate your self-worth. There are plenty of bigger people in the world that are very happy. And I think it's the Samoan tribe. The bigger they are, the healthier they are, the wealthier they are, the happier they are. There is health at every size, and that's, you got to look into a lot of aspects of that. Sure. But just because you're a thinner person doesn't mean you're a healthier person, doesn't mean you're a happier person.
Well, being skinny doesn't necessarily equate to not having any health problems.
Exactly.
That's absolutely for sure.
Yes.
I find that's really, really interesting in terms of we are, and again, I'm just my own examples, because I am like that. I mean, I'm exactly what you've described. I lived with my sister for a short time, and I used to hate her because she could open a block of chocolate and not have a row, but she could have a square and put it away, put it back in the drawer. And I'd look at her like there was something wrong with her. Me, if it's not open, I'm fine. Once it's open, mate, there ain't nothing left. It's almost like this innate, if I eat it now, then it's gone and I don't have to worry about it anymore. Do you know?
Yes. Yes.
It's get it out of the house, and that way it's gone. But again, enough about me. Look, we spoke about, we touched on it briefly. We are emotional eaters.
Yes, we are.
And if we can just talk a little bit more about that in terms of, there's obviously a variety of emotions, right?
There are.
And we're consuming food to make ourselves feel good, to celebrate, to I don't know, punish ourselves. I don't know.
Sabotage, yeah.
Sabotage, yeah. Just let's talk about a little bit more of, I guess, the emotional states that create that.
Yeah. Well, I suppose it's important to understand emotional eating right from the get-go. So as humans, we're designed to eat to self-soothe. So it's set up from babies. A baby is given either the breast or the bottle to eat, and they get love, and they get comfort, they get warmth, they get kind words, they get all sorts of things. So food equals love. And we associate food with love right from the beginning. And thank goodness, because if we didn't, and we didn't like to eat, well, where would we be as a species? We have to eat, and we can't go against the laws of nature. So food equals love. And when we eat, it does soothe us. It's one of the, in my belief, it's one of the only 2 natural functions that a body can do to self-soothe. The first one is breath. It's when we breathe, we will put ourselves, when we exhale, or just a couple of deep, long, slow, gentle breaths, we will put ourselves into the parasympathetic nervous system, which is a state of relaxation. It's a state of optimum healing. It's a state of optimum digestion. Interestingly enough, food will do that as well. So there is no drug on this planet that is quicker than food to make you feel better. So it's inbuilt within us. And so we are internally trained. It's within our DNA, I suppose, to eat to self-soothe. And then, life happens, and there's learned behavior, and other people show us things, ways to feel better. And if we have trained ourselves, no matter what emotion, anger, sadness, fear, hurt, guilt, and they're the five big major ones. But any of those, if your brain is going, I don't feel good, and sometimes people's brains they don't separate all of them. They've had a crappy day. It's been wow, whatever's happened in their day. I'll have something to eat. And it's not really a conscious thought. It becomes mindless. It's just a mindless habit. I'll eat. Because I call it the psychobiology, the psychology of the brain, the biology of the body, they work together. And if we're not feeling good, we'll eat to feel better. But then we don't feel better. Within a nanosecond, we don't feel better. So then we feel guilt. And then we go, oh, there's good food, there's bad food. I've just eaten bad food. You put your body into a stress response. And as soon as you put your body into a stress response, the sympathetic nervous system, so the opposite to the parasympathetic, your digestive system begins to slow down and shut down. It thinks it's being chased by a saber-toothed tiger. It does not want to digest that food. And there's so many nuances of how we eat. If we eat really fast because we don't want it to be there, and if we eat really fast, then we didn't really do it and it's okay and it's gone. So people do. I've done that too. I get that, but it's a way of the brain numbing out or just forgetting it. It didn't really happen because I don't want to be a bad person. If I eat bad food, I'm a bad person. This is part of the psychology of the brain. But there's no such thing as good or bad food. There's lots of reasons why you're eating that food, but it's not bad. It's just food. But you've labeled it. Someone's labeled it bad. You've heard it's bad, or you don't like the way that you eat it, so therefore it's bad. But it's not. No, we had this conversation, I think, before. None of this so-called bad food has, devil horns hanging out or tails or anything.
Pitchfork and a tail.
That's right. And, the celery doesn't have any angel wings either. It's just food. And this is where we want to, bring it into balance and go, okay, wait a minute, because our thoughts around the food creates the chemistry in the body, which will do all sorts of things internally that will drive us to eat more food because we feel bad, and then we go, oh, I'll just finish it off now, and and then I feel even worse, and say, oh, bugger it, and I've blown everything now, I'll just go.
I might as well keep going.
Yeah, and I'll start again tomorrow. Tomorrow I'll be good. There's this good bad, but yeah, it's not helpful.
I'd be curious in your thoughts. I met a gentleman many years ago who was a molecular scientist specializing in diet and weight loss. So he was a genius at the molecular level. So he was right into it. And we were having a conversation with some people, and a gentleman there said to him, look, I'm on a diet. This guy just got divorced, wanted to lose some weight, look good, in the market, so to speak. And he said to this guy, he said, right, mate, you must have the
perfect diet,
the perfect, the panacea, the response of responses. And this guy looked at him and said, all things in moderation.
Mm-hmm.
And the guys looked at him like, was that it? I was waiting for you to tell me that, eat this, don't eat that, take that tablet, don't take that. So in your work, looking at that, everything in moderation, is that something that you subscribe to?
Yeah, totally. Balance. It's got to be balanced, because if we deny ourselves food, if we deny ourselves that yummy donut or that chocolate, it's going to weigh on our mind. I could see it in your face. You go, oh God, how can I live without that? Oh no, as soon as you say you can't have something, you want something. And your brain will just continue with this thought process, I want, and then at some point you'll cave, and you'll eat more than you wanted, and then you'll feel bad, and then the cycle goes. So and that's not helpful. It's just following a repeated pattern. So yes, everything in balance, because when we eat in a balanced way, we're not craving things. that we feel that aren't helpful for us. So, you know, we're not craving the sweet foods, and we're not craving the, you know, it's a nice to have and we can have it, but we're not got to have it. You know, that's the only thing that will fix me. So everything in balance, because everything has the nutritional makeup that, you know, all the vitamins and the minerals and the fibers, everything that we need to sustain us throughout the day. And we can still enjoy food, because pleasure is part of the human condition. If we don't experience pleasure, we're at some point going to be experiencing more pain. And so a human will seek pleasure to avoid the pain. But if we don't have any pleasure, there's more pain, you know. So once again, there's that balance, always in balance. From a toxicology perspective, it's the dose that makes the poison. So, you know, it's how much you have. Water is, we need water, right? But if we have too much of it, it can kill us. Right, literally. So it's how much you eat, eating everything in balance, but always eating it without guilt, because that sets off a chemical reaction in your body, which, you know, sets off the stress response, and the stress response puts, you know, fires up your cortisol, and all of a sudden you're producing too much insulin, you know, your insulin hormone is starting to kick off. So that's when we go into that guilt or stress response. Stress is the biggest blocker to weight loss. So that's where we have to find the root cause of the stress, because it's the food. It's not the food that's going to fix the problem. That's not what you're really hungry for. It's looking at, well, what is happening before that, and what is the root cause that's driving you to eat in ways that are unhelpful. Then we find that balance.
I've heard people say, and it's more so when it comes to sweets, people go, oh, I've got my mother's sweet tooth. Now, is that, I mean, I've never really explored it, and you may or may not be able to answer it for us, but is something like that like hereditary or genetically passed down, or is that really somebody hanging their hat on that as an excuse, and then it becomes a behavior and justified with, well, my mother had a sweet tooth, so therefore I've inherited that sweet tooth?
I think it's a little bit of both, genetically, or depending on how you grew up in your family, like what were their beliefs around food. And, you know, if they were a family that they always had sweets, there's a belief that that's how you do your life. That's how you do life. And your body will, there's this thing called allostatic load over many, many, many years, if that's how you grew up. And that's, you know, you saw your grandparents do that. That's how you do life. And so therefore, it's fairly well ingrained as a habit. And sometimes, yes, we can hang our hat on it. But you know, you can change. Like we have choice within us to go, actually, is that supporting me? It may have supported me and my family for many, many years, but actually now at this stage of life, you know, and perhaps I'm at mid stage and I've got grandkids, or now I want to, you know, I want to still be active and move, but I'm finding that a bit difficult. What can I do now? And so it does require that little bit of extra effort to make the change. It depends where you're at. If that's what you want, then it's working out, well, what can I do, rather than saying, but my grandma, but that's, you know, how we've always done it.
Yep.
Because that's just that's just keeping the old pattern, the old neural pathway in your brain going the same way. So we want to go this way, not that way. Go this way, not that way, and retrain it.
And I guess the sweet thing, it's almost like a cultural norm, isn't it? You go out to dinner, what's after the main meal? Dessert. You know, the waiter will come to you, you know, would you like to see the dessert menu? You know, let's go out for coffee and cake. It's almost like it's a social norm. And we go, oh, well, I have to do it, because if I don't go, I'm being rude.
Well, I think that can also be a part of the people, you know, the crowd that you hang around. There's obviously also the marketing thing. Restaurants, they're trying to upsell and you know, get more into every table, which absolutely they should be doing. So But if it becomes a habit and other people are doing it and you want to be like everyone else, everyone's having dessert, well, and you would feel like you're the only one left, like, you would be left out if you didn't, and then you have it. I guess that's the choice that you make. Or what could you do instead? How can I support myself here? Maybe you choose a dessert, and can someone go halves with me on this dessert? Would you like to share this? I'd really like to experience it, because it's part of community. It's part of getting together. It's part of the feel goods. We as humans, like I said, we seek pleasure to avoid the pain. We want to feel good. And the fact that our sweet taste buds are right in the middle of our tongue, front and center here, they're going to want to have something sweet. If that's what you do. Not everyone wants to have sweets. And, when I go out, I generally don't have sweets. But if you have gone out and that's the people that you hang around with and that's what they do, well, I suppose that's something that you're likely to do too. But looking at, well, okay, does this support me? It might be fine for my friend. They enjoy it. But I don't want to deny myself and say, no, I'm not going to see my friends because, I can't go anywhere and not have something. It's just looking at the balance, moderation. Maybe I'll have that little tiny thing instead of the big cake, whatever it is.
You said it earlier. Ultimately, it gets back to choice.
Absolutely.
Isn't it? Nobody's putting a gun to anybody's head.
No, but the biology of your mind, the psychobiology of your body will drive behavior, and you'll feel like you have no choice. I'm not in control. People say I can't control myself around this. So that's where, getting to the root cause, because there's so many pieces of the weight loss puzzle. If you're not sleeping well, you're going to crave more sweets. That's what your body will do. So, someone who's not sleeping well will tend to overeat. They'll tend to eat sweets. That, the mind will say, because this is learned behavior, if I have something sugary, it'll wake me up. I feel I'll get more energy, but it just happens very quickly. And then, you have this huge crash. So, we got to look at lots of different pieces, because a body works in the homeostasis of a human body is everything working together. It's difficult to just go, I'm just going to stop eating sugar. That's it. It's going to be very difficult, because there's other reasons why you're eating the sugar. So you've got to look at the other bits around it.
So when somebody comes to you and says, okay, here's the challenge. Yes, I am overweight, and for a whole host of reasons, I'd like to lose 5, 10, 15 kilos, whatever. And you know pretty well straight away that they're emotional eaters. There's emotions attached. And for the benefit of the listeners and viewers, just if you can, and I know we're trying to oversimplify it here, take us through the process, and not only the process of trying to help that person, but more importantly, explaining to them the chemistry, because I'm fascinated with the chemistry side of things.
Okay. So the way that I work with someone is firstly to find out their story. What is going on for them? How do they perceive their problem? What has happened? What's the autobiography of how they got to where they are? And oftentimes, just doing this, doing an account of their life, they go, there's lots of ahas.
The light bulbs going off.
Yes. So we're starting to unravel their own problem already, because people get very stuck in the problem. The problem weight is a symptom of something else that's going on, and they blame everything on that. So, it's when we go back further, we go, okay. So, and this is why people, state their happiness on their weight, but in actual fact, it's not the weight that's the problem. It's the other things that have happened, either in childhood or moving through life, or there's all sorts of reasons a body will hold on to weight chemically. So, we find out what their story is, and then we do a deep dive and we unravel what they do. So we need to find out the structure of how they do. I just eat chocolate. I eat too much chocolate. Well, how do you do that? Oh, well, what do you mean? Well, when do you do it? Oh, I do it at night when no one's around. How do you do it? I get a whole block. Well, how did the block get there? Oh, when I go shopping, it's on special. So now now I've got my chocolate. Um, so, we're sort of finding out, well, how are they doing all these things? When are they doing these things? So we look at the structure of it, and what time of night? Oh, I'm, watching Game of Thrones, and so it's midnight and I'm, munching on my chocolate, or I'm on my second block, or whatever it is. So, I'm looking at all of this going, oh, okay, we've got some things here that we can work on. How are you eating? Give me a synopsis of your day when you eat. Oh, and it might be, oh, no, I didn't have breakfast. I haven't got time for lunch, and I was just running around all day. And oh, my husband, bless his heart, he just made this beautiful big roast, and I just had all this roast, and I was still hungry. I don't know, I wasn't hungry, but I just kept eating afterwards. It's just, I can see the structure of how all of this is happening. And, nutritionally, they're not getting enough fiber, they're not getting enough food, they're under eating. So, that's where the biology is coming in. The chemistry is they're not getting enough vitamins and minerals, they're not getting enough protein, they're not getting enough carbohydrates, they're not getting enough healthy fat. So the body's just sending out message, hungry, give me something. And of course, there's the habit of, oh, when I go shopping, I get this on special. I need to support my habit on a weekend when I'm sitting there watching TV and eating. You just, because your mind is doing it, it's always done it, and you're just repeating a pattern. It's just a repeated pattern of behavior. So when we start interrupting the pattern of behavior, we interrupt the pattern of thought that leads to the behavior. When we start doing that, then all of a sudden we can start making changes and bringing awareness. So they've gotten awareness. I know what to do, I just can't do it. And now I show them how to be an eater. And when they get that understanding, and we let go of these old negative emotions that are driving the behavior, because emotions will sit weigh heavily on in our body, right at a cellular level. So we feel weighed down, the weight of the world, just got all this stuff going on. It's like carrying around this backpack. I keep filling it up with stuff. And so, you want to feel better. So I eat to feel better, and then, or I eat to numb out. I just don't want to know, I'll get my packet or my, biscuits or chips or whatever, and hand to mouth like this, and all of a sudden it's gone. Well, I don't know what happened there. Because your mind steps away, we check out, we numb out and we check out, because we're doing exactly the thing that we don't want to be doing. So, our mind, another interesting thing is our mind can't tell the difference between what is real and what is not. So whatever you're thinking about, the chemistry of your body will enact the fight or flight response. For instance, you've had an awful day, you've had a conversation with someone, and you're starting to, your heart's racing, and whatever's happening, I'll eat something that will distract me, that will take my mind off my thing. It's complex, right down to sleep. If you're not sleeping, like I said, if you're not sleeping, you're not losing weight. So, and of course we need to move, because that's part of our self-care, or we just don't even consider self-care. Chemically it goes up and down, and then depending on where you are and what stage of life, and whether you're male or female, then that's a whole another story around hormones.
Well, I was going to say, the old hormones. You said something earlier, which is something that, for somebody that's always been challenged with weight, and again, the social norms, and what you should look like and what you shouldn't. You said about when we're depriving ourselves, we're fundamentally going into fight or flight, right? Because I guess the body's thinking, well, hang on, there's no food around. I need to survive. I need to store whatever I've got. Yeah.
Yes. Totally. Yeah? Yes. The primal survival kick in. Yeah.
So help me with this one. There used to be, well, I don't know if it still is, a program called My 600 Pound Life.
Oh.
an American program, and it was fundamentally about people who were 600 pounds or more, which is enormous.
Yeah, about 300 kilos.
It just huge. And these people had zero life. Like, we're talking, couldn't get out of bed, couldn't move, like really, really bad. And it was their journey with their bariatric doctor, looking towards having to lose a certain amount of weight before they could have lap band surgery or any other processes.
Yeah.
And of course, the thing that was always pushed was a reduction in calorie intake. That was always the go-to. Now, as you've said, there were always issues, people supporting them and, hiding a box of pizza here and there. But is that something that you would suggest? Like, because if they're not getting enough calories and they're starving themselves, isn't what we spoke about earlier happening? Like, the body's going into, hang on, I've got to hang on to all of this.
Yeah, so it's a staged approach, really. Their calorie restriction would see, this is where I'd go, okay, it's not about calories. I don't talk in calories. I talk in energy and having the best quality food that you can. So when you're having good quality food, then you're having, the healthy proteins, you're having vegetables, you're having healthy fats. When the body's getting all these things, it's not going to be wanting the other things. However, there's going to be a transition. It doesn't happen just like that. Of course. So, getting enough water, moving however they can move, in where they are in their life. So it's a gradual process. We don't go, oh, all of a sudden, they might be eating 3,000 calories a day to 1,200 calories. No. And I don't work that way. I don't run I have a no diet, no drug approach. What I ask my clients is to eat the best quality food that they have access to, even if it's from, obviously fresh is always going to be best. Organic is great if you can, if that's within your affordability. But even the quality of the food, from the Coles can of tomatoes to the Italian brand, get the Italian brand, not the Coles brand, because the quality of that Cole, can you imagine that poor tomato that's been, grown in depleted soils and, it's been picked by a migrant worker, no one cares about them. It's been chucked into a factory and mushed up and shoved in a can, and the poor tomato, like, it's got its quality of life has not been good. However, the can of tomato from Italy is probably grown in beautiful soil,
loved and nurtured.
Engaged, loved and nurtured. The quality of that food will have so much more nutrients in it than the Coles brand. So quality. Then we start to feel fuller for longer. Then our appetite naturally begins to reduce. So and I always say to people, look, be the curious scientist of your own body and a nutritional explorer. So listen and notice how you're feeling when you eat. If you're eating all this bread and all of a sudden you stop eating bread, then how much lighter do you feel? Do you feel like you've got your brain faculty back? You're not feeling bloated and so tired. Then you go, oh, okay, well, actually, I feel better doing it that way. You can take it on again, and that's a choice to go, okay, yes, I will mitigate those things. Maybe I'll only have bread on weekends.
That big word, choice.
Yeah. Choice and behavior, but you only know what you know. So it's an educational thing for me to re-educate in a way that's just so easy to understand, that how to be an eater. And when we know how to be an eater, and we know all the different nuances, like eating slowly and having your meals, that your dinner should be the smallest meal of the day. Your lunch should be the main meal of the day. Swap them around. And there's lots of reasons for that. Don't restrict your food because, or eat the bulk of your food at the end of the day when your metabolism is starting to slow down. Get enough sleep, drink enough water, move your body in ways that you love, get outside, all those kinds of things.
Yeah. And it's interesting you say about the smallest dinner should be smaller lunch should be your main meal.
Yeah.
I remember my parents being Greek migrants. Lunch was always the main meal.
Yeah. Wow.
It was always
Yes.
lunch was the meal. Dinner was, maybe a little bit of leftovers or, something light-ish, but lunch was the meal. Mum was, pots and
Yeah.
pans and in the oven and goodness knows whatever else. So that's something that from an ethnic perspective that we
Yes.
generally embraced.
Yeah, as Mediterranean way of eating is the bee's knees. And I think, I don't know if that is, well, different from Western, people out in the farms, they're out in the farms all day, they come back in at night and they have these huge meals, and we're told, and then, people, obviously we went through famine and war and, eat everything on your plate, all of those kinds of things. And that all, plays in people's head. But I want to tell you about the story about the sumo wrestlers. Have you heard the story about sumo wrestlers?
I'm fascinated with these guys.
Yeah.
I mean, they are worshipped. The bigger they are, the more they're worshipped.
That's right. Yes. And do you know how they get to that size?
Not specifically. I would imagine just eating everything that doesn't move.
Yeah. But it's the way that they eat and when they eat. This is the secret. So they their culture identified many, thousands of years ago that in terms of metabolism, we know that our metabolism starts to slow down at nighttime, right? So at nighttime is the body's way to heal and repair itself by resting and repairing everything. It doesn't want to digest a great big meal. If it does, if we're trying to digest a big meal, it's sort of competing with the healing process. The sumo wrestlers, they had a mission to get as big as they could. So what they do is that they will get up in the morning and they'll have something to eat. They'll train. They'll have their lunch, dinner. They'll have a banquet for dinner, like this massive banquet. And they don't eat, crappy food. They eat good quality food. So they'll have this banquet for dinner. They'll go to bed and then they'll wake up at midnight and they'll have another banquet. And then they'll go to bed and then they'll get up. So they've loaded their bodies with this huge amount of food while they're sleeping, minimal metabolizing happening, body storing the fat. So, we don't really want to be on the sumo diet, do we? No.
No, indeed not.
Yeah.
Wow.
So having a smaller dinner and a lighter meal. So Mediterranean way is, to have your main meats and things in the main meal of the day. Evening is lighter foods. It might be fish or it might be vegetarian type foods. Plant-based. So that is the best way for a human for us to achieve what we want to achieve. That is the best way to eat, not the sumo way.
No, ladies and gentlemen, now please don't, unless you want to be a sumo wrestler, which I doubt.
Yeah.
What's something like my partner and I, we go out a little bit. We're not big on going out to restaurants and things like that, but we'll go out from time to time. And what intrigues me is that during the week, like our normal behavior, by 5:30, 6 o'clock, we're done. We've eaten, dishes are done. We're done. That's it.
Yeah, great. Yeah.
But on the weekends, people, you want to go to dinner? Okay. What time should we book for? Should we get together at 8 o'clock?
Oh.
I'm going 8 o'clock. By the time we get there, by the time we order, by the time we get our food is going to be 9+.
Yeah.
I personally, I can't get my head around that. Like if I have a big meal late, I'm not sleeping. It's here. It's choking me.
Yes, exactly. And that's what happens. It will keep the energy that it requires for the body to try and, digest all that food. It will keep you awake. So that this is another thing for people that aren't sleeping, looking at, well, when's the last time they're eating?
Yep.
Give yourself 3 to 4 hours before you go to bed. Like, don't eat in that window of time. The whole gut process needs time to rest after it's digested a meal. So yeah, and I think, I don't know if that's cultural. It's not really cultural. I don't know what, is it a sign of the times to go out to eat late? I don't know.
I don't know. And interestingly enough, in Europe, like, you go to Greece. I can't speak for other countries, but Greece, they're not going out before 10 o'clock at night. So they're eating at 10, 11. But I can't get my head around that. But anyway, we digress. It's always fascinated me. And just going back to something that you mentioned in terms of, not having eaten a certain amount of time before you go to bed. I've been studying a gentleman by the name of Alan Parker, who's a world-renowned neuroscientist. And because, again, I'm fascinated with the chemistry and all that sort of stuff. And he says for people, you should never look at a screen or eat anything at least 3 to 4 hours before you go to bed.
Yeah, absolutely. Because it's messing with the electromagnetic, like the chemicals, the EMFs in your, the frequencies in your brain. Watching a screen and eating late at night is just going to mess with your sleep. Your brain's not going to slow down. It's still sort of active. It's like drinking alcohol or eating late at night. Your body's got to process the food or the alcohol, but the EMFs, the transmission into the brain it's not conducive to sleep. So even at night, in your bedroom, unplug, no TVs at night. This is what I'll go through my clients with. Don't even have a TV in the room. Just get rid of it. It's not, rooms are supposed to be sleeping and for other things, not for watching TV or eating. And you're training your body to do everything else but. And so then, if you're going to lay down in bed and watch TV, I can't sleep, put the TV on, I'll get my phone. You're not helping your brain or your body to sleep or rest. So, I will say, no blue lights. If you strictly must, and like I understand, I have my own business, we all sometimes have to work late and do stuff, but get some of those blue glasses.
I don't know anything about that. Share, please.
Yeah, so there are blue light glasses that help to reduce the EMFs coming from screens. You can put your screen onto low light at night. So you can do all that with all your devices. So you can do it on your smartphone, you can do it on your, on your iPad, you can do it on your computer. So get the light so it goes to night dimmer or something or other. So that is going to help to preserve the chemistry in your brain, which produces melatonin. In fact, this is part of it. So if blue light messes with melatonin in your brain, so you want to reduce that as much as you can. But if you can stay away, I say minimum 2 hours. People struggle with an hour, but as long as you can, before you go to bed, if you can just stay off these things or get some blue light glasses to help, preserve the melatonin and the chemistry of your brain.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. Had never heard about the blue light glasses. That's definitely something. Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Suzanne, again, I'm fascinated with this stuff and I could hold you here for hours, but I know you're very, very busy. What I always do at the end of my program is I ask my guests to give me their top 3 tips. Is that something you'd be happy to share?
Yes,
top 3 tips to help people.
Top 3 tips to help people to lose weight.
Lose weight, overcome some of their challenges around food, whatever.
All right.
So top 3, Suzanne's top 3. Number 1.
Yeah, eat slowly. Be present. Be present. Don't eat in a distracted way. Always be fully present with your food and eat slowly. So much chemistry happens in your body when you eat fast, when you eat slow, rest and digest. You won't eat as much food. You'll know when you're full. Your body will digest the food better. So always eat slowly. Take a big, deep breath in between each mouthful. Get more oxygen into your body. You'll burn more calories.
Wow.
So eating slowly would be my top 1.
Wow.
Then get enough sleep. These are in no particular order, by the way.
That's right.
Make sure that you're getting enough sleep. It's quality sleep. Don't say, lay there for, I'm in bed for 8 hours, but in fact you're waking up every hour or twice a night, but I'm going back to sleep straight away. No. You want to be horizontal asleep all for those 7 to 8 hours.
Duration of the time.
Because that's right. Because that is going to help to reduce your stress load. Stress is the biggest blocker to weight loss. And if we're not sleeping, we're not losing weight. So it's really important to do everything that you can, like, minimize the blue lights, make sure that you're not eating 3 or 4 hours before you go to sleep, no alcohol, all those kinds of things. If they're, caffeine, all those kinds of things, if they're interrupting your sleep. I guess the next one is, have your smallest meal at dinner and your main meal at lunch. So turn your meals around. So your main meal is at lunch.
I love that. Stress is the biggest blocker to weight loss.
Yep.
Wow.
Because it just creates the chemistry of stress, more cortisol, more insulin. It's telling the body to hold weight, store fat, and not build muscle. So there's a lot.
Wow. Suzanne, that's been amazing. Thank you so much for sharing your immense wealth of knowledge with our audience. Ladies and gentlemen, my guest today has been Suzanne Ingleton, who is the weight loss coach. Suzanne is an eating psychology coach, master NLP practitioner, and hypnotherapist. Suzanne, kind enough to share all her contact details. I'll put them all in the show notes. Reach out to Suzanne and resolve those habits that are just not serving you. My name is Con. I am the conversationalist, and until next time, bye for now.